Welcome to Motherhood and ADHD. I'm your friend, Patricia Sun. My mission is to be a lighthouse for mothers with ADHD, helping you find your path to success by learning to appreciate your ADHD as an asset. I'm seeking to change the paradigm that ADHD means your life is doomed to be a hot mess. So I'm sharing strategies and encouraging you in your pursuit of happiness to love who you are every day of your ADHD life. Hey there, successful mama. It's your friend, Patricia. Well, aren't we in some interesting times right now? The world is straight up cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs at this point, and I am here to offer a little bit of encouragement and sanity and remind you that we are going to get through all this. So I booted the episode that I had planned for this week and wanted to touch on how do we deal with these stressful times? How do we adjust things? How do we move forward? Obviously, we're all in a different space in life, but there are some general guidelines that I want to share with you that have helped me. And just be honest, because I've been struggling really hard to put into words why I've been so upset. And I realized what it is that I am in a season of mourning right now. Like, there is big time grief, and I am just sad and distraught and shaken by how things are so different right now. And so I have been putting this all together and realized that dealing with this kind of grief is similar to when we're dealing with the grief of a loss of somebody who's important to us. So I did a little research and applied what I already knew, and I'm hoping that you, mama, have not had to deal with losing someone really important to you. But if you had, hopefully you can draw from those strengths and share with those around you how you dealt with that change going on in your life. So in a time of mourning, you have to give yourself the space to grieve. Like, this is hard. This is going to be difficult for everyone. It is very stressful. We all have different ways that our lives are being affected right now, like running the gamut of working way too much or not working at all, finances being tight or stretched, and kids at home, throwing everything off your routine, trying to work and juggle kids at the same time, knowing that people around you are struggling, the general paranoia of wondering where the germs are. I mean, I could go on for another 10 minutes, but this is a stark reminder that we are not in control of a lot of things. And I thought it funny because I just did my last episode on having less control and more grace for myself because things were not going as I had planned. And we don't know what the future holds at any point, but this is making it very apparent and in our face that we don't know what's going to happen. And I am very thankful that I have my faith to lean on at this point. But if you, mama, don't have that stronghold in your life and you don't have a place to put your faith in, I can't imagine how much scarier this would feel for you to not have that hope. And so I'm not judging. I'm just saying I would find that even more unsettling if I didn't have my faith. And so I understand why everyone is so scared right now. That makes sense to me. I get it. I hope it makes sense to you too. This is hard, and we've got to figure out a way to deal with it. Now, I'm going to link an article or two that I pulled up on how to deal with grief. Some of them were not so good. I am not going to post those. And I will post the ones that were good. And the one that I'm talking about right now is from Mental Health America. And I'll link all those in the show notes. You can go to my website and find all that. It's patriciasung.com or motherhoodandadhd.com. Either one will get you to the podcast, and you can look at the show notes and see where the links are. But we've got to have patience. We have to be patient with ourselves. We have to be patient with our kids, our spouses, the teachers giving our kids whatever annoying homework assignment right now, the people who can or cannot do things that they said they would. I mean, just so much patience. Everyone's dealing with this grief right now, that life is not what it was a couple of weeks ago. So we've got to have extra grace and extra patience all around. And starting to wrestle with the idea that life is going to look different, not only right now, but in the coming months and probably throughout the rest of the year. things are just going to be different. I'm not saying you have to accept it right now, but just we have to start letting that thought in and kind of let it marinate for a while that things are not going to be like they were, and they're not going to be that way for a little while. And it's okay to be unsure. It's okay to feel all the feelings. It's okay to not know what to do or how to make the right decision. We're not going to know because we've never done this before. We've never had this huge global, like all of us dealing with the same stressor at the same time. This is a whole new world that we're dealing with. And so it's not just affecting our families in the way that if you lose a person, it's affecting that small circle of your family and who was important to that person. Like, we're all dealing with this struggle right now, and we all don't know what to do with it. We just got to let the feelings come in. You let them sit there, and after a while, they'll kind of settle out on their own. They'll start to dissipate. They won't necessarily go away, but if we're just trying to like shove the feelings down or throw them out the window, we're not going to feel better. We're just saving them for later in that case. So I will also link some good videos that I will probably mention as we go through this, but no, I'm going to add some of those in too, because that just triggered something in my head. And ADHD, we got to say it out loud before we forget. Okay, so in this very stressful time where life is looking different, what am I doing? I came up with 5 things. 1, I'm setting my priorities. What do I want to tackle in this time? I'm a doer. I feel better if I have a goal. If you're not, hey, just chill. That's totally cool. But for me, I want to know, what are my priorities right now? Things that I can actually handle and touch and do have some control over. That's a way where I feel better, is like, okay, there's a lot I don't have control over. What do I have control over? And there's a couple of things that I've been working on and haven't been doing well. So this is a great time to work on them because I have a lot of free time in the evenings where we're not going anywhere. So 1 is working on my bedtime. That's something I've been trying to do. I'm going to work on going to bed earlier, working on resting and actually enjoying having to not do 400 things all the time. Obviously, there are pros and cons to all of this, but I'm looking at the positives right now. I'm going to focus on enjoying that rest and gaining that fruitfulness from it. Playing with my kids. I'm not a player. That's not my thing. That sounded very funny, but I'm going to leave it in because it made me laugh. I'm just not someone who plays with my kids. Like, just building nothing out of Legos. Like, I'm fine if I have a plan and we're making this thing and we're doing step 17. I am not so good at just playing open-ended. And that's something that's really important for kids' development. And so I want to give them plenty of space for that. And then giving me some space to try it and just spend a little more quality time with them that I wouldn't get when we're running amok, doing all these things. And then I've accepted that I probably won't have a lot of time to record podcasts. There's going to be noise in the background. So I just want to do a little bit of dreaming about what I'd like to do with the podcast and let those ideas float around in my head and see what surfaces. But that's pretty much my priorities for the next probably 2-3 weeks, is focusing on those things as my highest priority. And that gives me direction. I mean, I want to say like, I'm also going to do this and I'm going to do that. But you know what? Priority is technically a word that means one thing, not all the things. And we want to do 47 things. So I'm limiting myself to these, I would say it's 3/4, because I'm going to clump bedtime and rest kind of into the same thing of like appreciating rest, getting better sleep in one priority, spending more quality time with my kids and playing with them as a second priority, and then just letting my podcast sit. I guess that's, maybe it's not necessarily I'm making it a priority. I'm giving myself the space that if it doesn't get done, that's okay. Like, I have a couple of episodes already ready to go. They'll get me through the next couple of weeks, but I'm not putting pressure on myself that I have to get it done as much as I want to get it done. I'm just going to kind of let it sit there. And if it gets done, great. If it doesn't, I may have to just work with what I got, which is all I can do, really. Anyways, second thing, adjusting routines. Obviously, life is totally crazy. Our routines went out the window when all the things that we usually did got canceled. And so think about how you can adjust the things that you still need to get done in this new way. So things like meals, you're probably not going out to eat or picking up stuff quite as often. So how does that look for your family? How can you make mealtime not a stress point in your life, essentially, is what I'm thinking here. Like, we don't have to have like grand Pinterest goals for cool new recipes. Just, hey, I am usually cooking 3 days a week. I'm probably going to have to cook 5 or 6 days a week. What do I need to adjust to make that doable and not stressful? Making time for some quiet. I mean, it's hard as a mom. We're trying to do all the things for our kids, and quiet is a finite resource when you have kids around. So making sure that you buffer in some time to your schedule of when can you have some quiet? When can you recharge? What does that look like for you? Exercise. The gyms are all closed. How are you going to make that happen? Can you do super cool? There's this thing called cosmic yoga I really want to try with the kids. So can you just do cosmic yoga together? Is that an option? Can we fiddle with this and make it work for where you are right now? I do not watch the news. That's something that I have been doing for probably, how long have I been doing that? At least 6 months. I want to say probably closer to a year. It just stretches me out to watch the news on TV. So I'm just not. I will tune into an important press conference for our city, like when they announced this morning we're sheltering in place. Okay, got it. I figured out what the rules are, and then I turned it off because other than that, I get stressed out. If it doesn't bother you, hey, go for it. But if this is something that ups your anxiety when watching it, just don't watch it. If something important happens, tell your spouse or your best friend, hey, I'm not watching the news. It's driving me nuts. Can you please just text me if the world's ending? Great. Cool. Thanks. Done. Check. And then another routine you want to look at is for your family. There are 450 routines floating around on the internet. Some of them are super detailed. Some of them are very rough sketches. And even if you are not a routine person, I highly recommend, even if it's a super simple schedule, give yourself some anchors in the day. What time are we going to eat breakfast? What time are we going to eat lunch? What time are we going to eat dinner? This is the stuff we need to get done in the morning, your schoolwork, brushing teeth. Free time is in the afternoon. So that way, iPads aren't amok for the full 24 hours a day. I'm not saying you need to limit at this time because Lord knows we all need a break. But have some parameters in what's acceptable in these times for you and your family, and communicate that with your family so that everyone can get on the same page. If you have teenagers, Mel Robbins did a really great video the other day on how to give them freedom and independence while still being a good parent. Obviously, their independence has been greatly diminished. The same if she was talking about, like, if you have older kids who are like in college age or adult kids at home, I'm sure they're freaking out. Thank goodness I don't have teenagers right now. It's like hard enough with toddlers, but I can't imagine an incarcerated teenager right now. So my biggest hugs to you, mama, if you're at home with teenagers. Anyway, I'm getting off track. So keep an eye out for the resources that are out there, but don't get overwhelmed by all of them. That's my third thing, is reaching out for support. Even though we are all doing this new thing, we're all doing a new thing together. You're not alone. So like I said, Mel Robbins did this great video on Instagram. I will link to another great video by Dr. Becky at Home on Instagram. She was talking about how to deliver bad news to your kids. Things like telling them they're not going to have a birthday party, or maybe they're missing their 3rd grade show, or they're missing prom, that kind of stuff. How can you tell them this bad news and give them the space to feel the feelings? Or if they're not willing to feel feelings at the moment, checking back in. I like that resource. So know that there are so many ways you can reach out for support if you're not reaching out to your immediate friend circle, but find someone to talk to about it. This is hard, and we need to communicate and share our feelings about how we feel about it. And then other people can say, hey, I'm in that boat too. Or maybe they know, hey, this has worked for my angsty 12-year-old. Why don't you try it? We are in this together. I think that's been one of my favorite things about looking at Instagram the last couple of days, is all the people pitching in and sharing resources and music and art and their pieces of themselves to help us all get through these struggles. And so in that same vein, number 4 is your mental health. What are you doing to preserve your sanity at this time. You should be doing something every day to regain some peace. Are you getting outside the house? Are you getting some vitamin D? Are you sleeping enough hours at night? Are you reaching out to friends and using, Zoom and Skype and FaceTime and all that to be able to have that community? Are you keeping up with your therapy or coaching lessons virtually? What is something that's going to make you happy and relieve your stress in this time? Now, keep in mind that I am not saying to do something to escape the problem or make unhealthy choices that are not safe for you or are going to hurt someone else in order to avoid your feelings. But think about what truly brings you joy. Can you do some artwork? Is working out that thing for you? What is it that's going to give you restoration in this time? And also just giving yourself the space to know. Number 5, it's okay to not know. I think that permission, like giving yourself that permission to just feel the way that you feel and to say, I broke down in tears at the grocery store today because it was just too much. That's okay. We're all feeling like this is too much. We don't have the answers, but we're going to find them. This is a trial and error experience as we all work through this together. And while we don't have the answers, Mama, they'll come to us. They will. Remember, you were given your kids. They were entrusted to you. You were handpicked to be the one to raise these little tiny humans. And you are going to do a great job, even if it's a hot mess for the next couple of weeks. We're all going to be a hot mess for the next couple of weeks, and that's okay. We'll get through it. We'll get there. Reach out. Set your priorities. Adjust your routine so that you get done the things that need to get done. Like we're talking like basics of life here. Reach out for support. Do something to give yourself rest and allow yourself the space to grieve, to mourn. Like we're going to mourn little things. Like I can't get something shipped to my house on 2-day Prime anymore. I know that is a tiny, tiny thing to be frustrated by, but it's another example of how my life is changing. And it's okay in those times of grief to get frustrated by big things and little things. So I'm sending huge hugs to you, Mama. Please reach out to me if you are on the struggle bus. We will commiserate together and we will navigate this big bowl of unknown together, and we'll come out on the other side and live to tell the tale to our grandkids, just like our grandparents did with us. Have a great nutty week, successful Mama, and we will talk again next week. Thank you for listening to Motherhood and ADHD. For more resources, head over to our website, www.motherhoodandadhd.com.